Hello mathematicians, this is the video for home connections 61 and 62. Which fraction is larger, 8/10 or 73/100? 8/10 is bigger, and here's how I would explain it. I know that 8/10, if I multiply by 2 over 2, the numerator by 2 and the denominator by 2, I know that an equivalent fraction to 8/10 is 80/100. And 80/100 is bigger than 73/100. Down below, we'll also show another way of explaining why 8/10 is bigger than 73/100. It says to draw each fraction on the grid below. So I'm going to draw 8/10. So I'm thinking 8 strips, because I know there are 10 strips in a mat, so 8 out of 10 would be 8 out of the 10 strips. So there's 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 7/10, 8/10. And I know that 8/10 or 8 strips is the same as 80 units. I can see those 80 little squares that are shaded blue. 73, so there's 10 little squares, 73/100, which would be each unit. There's 20 little squares, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 71, 72, 73. And I can see that there's more blue than red. Record each fraction as a decimal. 8/10 would be an 8 in the tenths place. I would also accept if you put a 0 after it and wrote 80/100, since 8/10 is equivalent to 80/100. 73/100 would be a 73 going up to the hundredths place. Oftentimes it's helpful if kids think money, 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 because it looks like 80 cents and 73 cents, and 80 cents is definitely more than 73 cents. Number 2, on the first grid below, shade a number between 75/100 and 8/10 and label it. Then shade in and label a different number between 75/100 and 8/10. I would add a 0 after the 8, because I know that 8/10 is the same as 80/100. And it's easier for my brain to comprehend that I need to shade in something between 75 squares and 80 squares. So 76 squares would work, 77, 78, and 79. So between 75 and 80 would mean bigger than 75, less than 80. So I'm going to do on my first one, let's just do one bigger than 75. I'm going to do 76. There's 75, but I need 76. And I am going to label it, because it's written in decimals up above, I think I should probably write it as a decimal here. 76/100 is between 75/100 and 80/100. And then I think I'll do 79, because 79 is in between 75 and 80. There's 79. 79/100 or 79 squares. Compare the two numbers you shaded in the grids. Write an inequality using the symbol less than or greater than. Unequal means not equal, because the two things that I drew are not equal. So I'm going to say the first one I drew was 76/100, and that is less than 79/100. The two decimals that you wrote might have been slightly different than what I wrote, but if you followed with what I did, then 76/100 is definitely less than 79/100. All right, let's look at page 62. Write these numbers as decimals. Whenever I see the word and, that is where the decimal goes. So when I see 2 and 83 hundredths, I know the 2 is my whole number. The word and is where I put the decimal. 83 hundredths, it looks like an 83, going up to the hundredths place. 1 and, so 1 is my whole number. When I see that and is where I put the decimal. 6 hundredths, be careful. 6 hundredths means a 6 in the hundredths place. So make sure it says 1.06, not 1.6, because that 6 needs to be in the hundredths place. Write this decimal in words. 2 and, when I see that decimal, I write the word and, 94, and since it goes up to the hundredths place, I'm going to write the word hundredths. Number 5, fill in each blank, less than, greater than, or equal to. It is always beneficial to put a 0, so they both go up to the same place. So I'm going to put some zeros in, so all the numbers go up to the hundredths place. I think it's much easier to compare when they're all kind of in the same realm, right? When they all go up to the same place value. And I can think money now. 80 cents versus 78 cents. 80 cents is bigger. 56 cents versus 60 cents. 60 cents is bigger. And letter C, when I threw that 0 in there, I realized that they're both totally equivalent. And that makes sense. I can imagine 6 strips for this one and 60 little units for that one, which is the exact same thing. Allison says that 1.06, or 1 and 6 hundredths, is bigger than 1.2, or 1 and 2 tenths, because 6 is bigger than 2. Do you agree or disagree? I disagree. And it says explain. I'm going to say that 1.06 is less than 1.2, and I can see that if I put a 0 right after it. Imagine $1.06 versus $1.20. When I put that 0 in, it's easy to see that Allison was not correct. 1 and 6 hundredths is definitely smaller than 1 and 20 hundredths. Eric is 4.23 feet tall, 4 and 23 hundredths feet tall. Stacy is 4 and 3 tenths feet tall. Who is taller? The answer is Stacy is taller. And I'm going to explain it in a very similar way. Eric is this, and that is less than Stacy. And again, I can see that very easily if I put a 0 in, so they both go up to the hundredths place. Challenge. 1 year ago, Charlie's chameleon was 8.42 inches long. Now his chameleon is 9.36 inches long. Show your work with numbers, labeled sketches, or words for each question below. How much did Charlie's chameleon grow? So how much longer is he now than before is a subtraction problem. When you subtract with decimals, you do everything exactly the same. And when we start doing this more, if we haven't already, we're going to chant, line up the decimals, line up the decimals. So you line them up and you subtract just like normal. And the decimal is just going to be right spot in your answer. 6 minus 2 is 4. 3 minus 4 you cannot do, so I'm going to take one of my 1s and break it up into 10 tenths. Add it to the 3 that are already there. Now I can subtract. Here we go. There's my answer. So how much did it grow? I'm going to rewrite it, and I'm going to label it with the word inches. It's always good to label your answer in a word problem. How much more does his chameleon need to grow to be exactly 10 inches? So right now, this is how long the chameleon is, and I want to know how much more to be exactly 10. So I'm going to do 10 minus, doesn't this look funky on your eyes? Let's rewrite 10 by adding some zeros. We're not changing the problem, but it certainly makes it look better on my eyeballs. Now I can subtract. I can't do 0 minus 6. I can't take away from nothing. I can't take away from nothing. So I'm going to borrow one of my tens, which is the same as 10 ones. I'm going to borrow one of my ones, which is the same as 10 tenths. And I'm going to borrow one of my tenths, which is the same as 10 hundredths. Remember, our whole number system, including decimals, is based on the number 10. Now I can subtract 10 minus 6, 9 minus 3, 9 minus 9, 0 minus 0, 0.64. So I'm going to rewrite that answer. And that's how much more the chameleon needs to grow to reach 10 exact inches. All right, here are the answers for 61 and 62. Okay, great job, kids.